I'm deprived of sleep. That's fair, actually. Um, but yeah, so um, we're just playing some vanilla Minecraft because I figured we won't do anything crazy, and it's also been a while since I played vanilla. Um, I'm really only ever on Kingdoms SMP or like playing Bed Wars or some shit, or like there was that little bit where I was playing RL Craft, and I was also on a Cobblemon server, but like I don't really play vanilla survival, which is a little bit of a bummer. So might as well get back to our roots. For those of you who were not here at the beginning um of this channel, this is the first game I ever streamed, and I streamed it off my Xbox because I didn't have a PC at the time, and my laptop was old. Um, it didn't take too long after that actually before I got a PC, but um, there was a solid bit where I was streaming off my Xbox using my shitty headset and no webcam. Sorry if the Wi-Fi is shit, by the way. If we're like stuttering, um, it's been that way for a little bit, like a few weeks. Um, it's pretty much never actually like fully gotten fixed since we had that like period after the last break, after spring break, where we came back and like no one could connect to the Wi-Fi, so they were fixing it. And at least for me, none of my shit acts like it was fixed. So I don't know. But that's one thing that'll be nice. We'll be back at home with their Wi-Fi, and someone just dropped something. Um, when I left, we were having fuck, what is it called? We were having Wi-Fi issues, but it was because the router was going. So hopefully they got a new router. It's funny because I always make comments about like, sorry, the Wi-Fi shit. Um, but like, it doesn't really affect me as much as it affects you guys. And at least me personally, I've played in much worse conditions. Like, I wouldn't be mentioning it if it wasn't for knowing that you guys are dealing with a less than subpar stream. Just cause like I used to play on that super old laptop that had me lagging ridiculously, and I could barely like open up a Chrome tab without shit acting like I wanted to like fucking cook eggs on it, you know? One of those laptops where it's like steaming hot because of years of use. If I remember right, I think when I started streaming, that laptop, I had to get like a fan for it, like a laptop fan to sit underneath it. Wild. I'm just gonna casually try and save the trees. You have that? What, the shitty laptop? It's funny because I didn't even get rid of that laptop. I gave it to my little sister. Granted, she didn't have anything else, so it was probably like the best thing ever, but you know. I'm just trying to wander around to see if I can find a good place for a house. But everything is just forest. Dude, this is an older song, but I've been vibing with it lately. Hey, A, how's it going? It's like a little dam. I kind of want to break the dam. Oh, I fell off the dam. I am dead. Damn. I'm dead. That was so fucking dumb. I'm sorry. I've been making more puns lately, and I don't know where it's coming from. Build a really cool house. I will as soon as I find a suitable area. Although I kind of do like this area. It's also close enough to the snow that I can run over there and get spruce. You told me that they can't understand the man I am. Talking to each other again. Are there no other white sheep? Damn. You look just like my fucking dad. I hope I don't look like my dad. In personality and in actual looks. Beachfront property. So true, actually. What if I. You know what? Because you said that, let's live over here. Hmm? So it's like legit beachfront. And so that if I look out my window, I'm not seeing the snow. It's like a little gang over there. You are not new, Austin. Look at the fucking gang over here, the crew. Oh, shit. Did we just have a Mufasa moment? Shit. Okay. Yeah, we'll live right here. As beachfront can be. Dude, have you guys seen anyone play that game Overcooked? Specifically Overcooked 2? I'm kind of interested. I kind of want to get it. It's like... it's fairly... Okay, I'm not starting yet, but be prepared for, like, the worst pirate voice you've ever heard. It's funny, because I put that there. Because I was like, oh yeah, pirates, part of my brand, you know, captain, yada yada. I'm getting the timer set up, don't worry. But, I'm so shit at pirate voices. That made me realize that he does have a pirate laugh. That's so. Why did I never realize that? That's so good. Where is it? Okay. Let's start the timer as of now. 5 minutes. You you motherfucker. It's still going. Tagalog. I don't know why it's still going, but it's so funny. Can you guys? Oh my god, you guys can't even hear it, can you? This is like, this is amazing. I'll have to restart the timer. I've been flustered. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I hope it's not still playing for you guys or that you can't hear it. Um, but thank you, Mr. G Floyd, for the merch. Very much appreciated. Thank you for the merch buy. What'd you buy? By the way. Um, now that it's silent for me, I'm trying to put myself back together. That's actually a really good question, Austin. Why don't I call my viewers scallywags? I just call you guys my crew. But I should call you scallywags. It's funny as shit. Do you guys want to be called scallywags? Is that something you'd be open to? I don't know. I think I just never gave like I'm trying to like put my brain back together from I don't know if you guys heard it, but from the last Redeem that just was nonstop Where Has the Rum Gone remix. Fucking bastard. No, you don't need to. I'm gonna start the timer over in a second. But yeah, do you guys want to be called scallywags? I've just called you guys crew because I didn't want to call you guys anything specific without you guys choosing it, you know? Okay, now that I'm a little bit more put together, let me restart the timer. Sorry about that. Okay. It's literally just gonna sound like me, but less slang, by the way, and a slightly deeper gruff voice. I've been slacking on my vocal practice, trying to deepen my voice. So I'm not doing very good at this. Alright, 5 minutes on the clock. Give us a good yar. Okay, that'll start us off. Ready? Wait, do you want yar or arg? Actually, let me clarify. Do you want yar or arg? My foot's numb. Both? Okay. That's how we'll start this off. Arg! That was weirdly good. Now I can't not talk like this. That's what I was thinking, like a warm-up. Okay. I wanted to see if I could continue it after I said arg, but I couldn't. Let's see if I can continue it after yar. Yar! Someone outside just laughed. I hope they weren't laughing at me. Okay. I don't know fully the dialogue of how pirates speak. Other than like some slang terms, but I don't know how full sentences go. Back off. Scurvy dog slaughter. I feel accomplished. I hope this sounds as ridiculous for you as it does for me, because it sounds kind of fucking dumb. Dock point set. I've docked my ship. Heck. I don't know what that was for. I don't know why they're screaming. Okay, we need... Get the fuck off my shit! I'm not gonna fight you, but get off my shit. We need literally everything. It does sound like I'm trying to get a frog out of my throat. It low-key sounds like I'm extremely sick. Or like I've smoked several packs. We need wood and we need coal. I've contracted a disease. Of the venereal kind. Blood's just vibing in my throat. That's what gave me the venereal disease. I need cobblestone and coal, but I see no... I see no mining places. What are those called? Caves. I see no caves on the horizon. Fuck. Ribbit and shit dog. Hearing it firsthand makes me feel like a fucking idiot. I also derive far too much pleasure from saying agagagagar. It is just a little bit too funny. Okay. We are going to write down our coordinates in the chat and then head off looking for mining items. Because I am doing a piss poor job of doing that currently. I understand, I'm a frog, shut up. Do you think frogs would talk like this, actually? Ah! We're over, we're done. I want to make sure I wasn't going to turn back on. But do you think frogs talk like that? If frogs could talk, do you think that they would speak like that? Just in case I get horrifically lost. Why not? What do you think a frog speaks like? What do you think a frog sounds like when it speaks? If you are the all-knowing frogman. I think they are all French. So are they, like, have they gone full French? You know? Do they wear the beret and eat baguettes whole? Or is it more of a like, yeah, I took a French class once type of thing? Okay, we're back here. No? Which one's a no? I'm gonna pop your bubblegum heart. B. Walking. So one of my roommates came back. I don't know where they were. They're all Prince Naveen gaslighting women to kiss them. I love that Automod held that because you said kiss them. But you say they're French, but Prince Naveen wasn't French. He was from Maldonia. Automod. It's okay, guys. The phrase is allowed now. Give Automod a big old smooch. Oh. Fuck yeah, dude. Hot. Oh shit. I broke my ankle. Oh, we made it to the Stone Age. Sexy. Yeah, end up in a polyamorous relationship with Automod. Fucking go for it. Okay, we're slowly making our way down. The frog kissing cases were really bad. Like, how bad, though? Especially in Louisiana. Yeah, that sounds like a Louisiana thing to do. See, Alabama's too busy kissing cousins, so someone's got to pick up the slack on kissing frogs, you know? It is a little worrying that they kiss the thing that they tend to eat, because, you know, they eat frog legs in the South. So it... Did we lag, or did I do something? I did something. Okay. I was half paying attention. I zoned out a little bit while I was talking. So I didn't really pay attention to what I was doing there. But, shut that fuck up! Okay, you know what? You loud-ass bastard, where are you? Are you not even down here? Are you up there? Star-Lord. What? I can't see shit down here. Slap me silly and call me daddy. Bro. This is hot. Okay, we're gonna have to go back up if we don't find any coal. Oh shit. I don't know that I see anything up there. You heard me. Ooh! Can I reach that? Thank you. Zooey mama. Okay. I didn't bring any sticks, which was kind of dumb of me. But, in my defense, I'm an idiot, so... There's also wood down here I can nab. What was I talking about before we had the pirate shit? Oh yeah, Overcooked. Dude, highly recommend watching people play Overcooked if you haven't. It is very similar to, oh, fuck, what is it called? Let There Be Light! It's very similar to another teamwork-based game, that essentially, in the progress of having you work as a team, destroys your friendships entirely. And I love that. Give me that. Thank you. Yeah, I fucking love it. Because every time I watch someone play it, they almost immediately start devolving into screaming matches. Because if you've never seen anyone play the game before, the whole premise is you have this, like, restaurant, right? The place where the restaurant is changes every time. Sometimes it's weird. Like, there was one level where you're on two blimps, essentially. Two blimps that just, like, occasionally pass each other in some way. And you have, like, you have to maneuver around and get to the other blimp, to be able to continue, like, serving the food and shit. And, yeah, I got a boost. But as people are playing this game, they so quickly end up at each other's throats. Because they're like, no, I didn't need onions, I needed this. Or, like, there's typically one player that ends up, like, washing the dishes. Because you only have so many clean dishes, you know? And you're running a restaurant, so you have to wash them before you can use them again. So someone's like, we're out of dishes, clean the fucking dishes, you know, stupid shit like that. But it's so funny. I'm not even selling it well. But I highly fucking recommend it. It's so good. And I definitely want to play it. It's only like... Oh, fuck. I thought it was like $2 and something cents. But I might be wrong and it might be like $6. But it's no higher than $6. At the very least, it's no higher than 6. That's me, yep, MSB, Miss Bonalash. Trying to think what other games I want to play. I know I have quite a few on my wish list. I just can't remember what else I wanted to play. Oh, Rust. I have to talk to Chise about that. Because she's been playing it lately on this server. And, I kind of want to join in. Because it's a private server, so it's not like you're gonna have to deal with the shit that you would on a public server, but... Bitch. Ow! Ah! Don't slap my ass, you ungrateful, silly little hoe bag. Be happy you were able to even look at it, motherfucker. I'm getting all of the coal. Because you're at the point in the game where I cannot live without it. And I also don't want to be in the dark again, because that was spooky. I'm trying to maneuver my way around looking for iron specifically. Not that I need it at the moment, but it'd be nice to have. Okay, I think I came from this direction. No, I did not. I don't remember seeing lava before. Okay. Oh shit! Hello. Moegub. Now! Ooh. I don't have a sword. Don't fucking touch me. I very much dislike that this has just opened up a whole new level where things could easily fall on top of my face. There's another one! Spooky. Skater boy. I kind of want to get into skating of some level. Like, I don't think I would want to do ice skating. Partially because it is an expensive hobby, from what I've heard. But also, I've tried my hand at skating, and I think the cold plus the fear of falling on my ass is just a bit much. But maybe like roller skating or skateboarding. We'll see. I have to decide. Super space on my gun. Don't be surprised if you see a new layout on stream and like across a lot of my shit, by the way. I'm looking into some new branding. Another thing where I have to decide exactly like what I want first, but I'm definitely looking to make everything more cohesive across all of my social media and shit, you know? Because like we don't have anything cohesive at the moment other than the logo. That's really not much. That's how you know I wasn't paying attention. I put that in the wrong fucking slot, bro. I'm sorry I have to deal with the bottle noises, by the way. It works great. It's just very fucking loud. More popcorn. My roommate brought home a me-sized bag of movie-grade popcorn. So everyone in the dorm is going to town. I also have no snacks, so this is my only option. Not that I would decline anyway. Movie popcorn is the shit. It got stuck. And it hurt because it was literally like pushing on my teeth. Cooked swine? Oh, poor swine. Could you imagine if someone was watching stream and their name was Swine and they're like, you fucking cooked me, you bastard? That'd be me if my name was Swine. I'd be the person to be like, what the fuck? Okay, so this is the hole. Hot. We made our way back. My teeth are yellow. Hello, world. You like a little bit if they were white like yours. There it is. Okay, let's see if we can find some more. I mentioned this on Twitter. I don't know why this popped in my head. But I mentioned this on Twitter that I'm in like a weird stage mentally. The only time I ever remember being like this before was sometime during COVID. It's not bad, by the way. I just like night bug hisses. Wow, okay. Those fucking night bugs, bro. But it's essentially like I'm in this weird headspace where I'm questioning little stupid things. Like, I've been mainly doing it with Star Wars lately because, I've been reading a lot of, like, Star Wars fanfics. And there's also, you know, the fact that the second season of Mandalorian just came out and shit. But, I find myself questioning, like, stupid shit. Like, one of the things I remember vividly during the pandemic was questioning why Tupperware is called Tupperware and why a vacuum is called a vacuum. I don't know that I remember the answer to either of those, but I talked about this last stream. I had a whole moment where I fell down the rabbit hole of why planets in Star Wars that end with Tooine, like Tooine, why they end in that, and why there are so many of them with the same end. And then there was another Star Wars rabbit hole that I fell down, but I don't remember what it was. But an unrelated rabbit hole that I fell down just the other day was like, just because randomly, I was watching something. I don't remember what the fuck I was watching, but I was watching something, and there was a guy, I think an older man, who like spat the word boy. Oh, I remember what it was. I was watching what the fuck is it called? I was watching the new Bridgerton show. It's not Bridgerton, it's like a branch off for the queen. And in it, the king gets yelled at by this guy, and the guy spits the word boy at him. Like he says something, boy. And for some reason I got in my head, I was like, why does spitting the word girl feel different, at least to me, than boy? You know? And that led me down the whole, like, misogyny, that whole branch. And I was reading up on the connotations and everything for a solid half hour. Couldn't tell you why. Jeremy Zucker. But yeah, if you ever randomly have a question like that and you don't know who to pose it to or to who to talk about it with, come to me. I know what's up. I do that shit. Okay. We have coal. We have a little bit of iron. Let's get the fuck out of here. Usually I would wait until I've, like, completely cleared out this place, but I can come back. I can hear them in the walls. He's in the goddamn walls! There we go. And we are fucking out of here. Let's go. Before I employ... Oh. Anyway, wah! I didn't mean to walk into it. Anyway, before I employ the use of the coordinates, let's see if I can find my way back regularly. Cow. Whoa! That lava did some fucking work while I was gone. Shit. Never click termites? Why are you clicking termites, 8? Skateboard. There's a fair amount of people at this college that have, like, electric skateboards. By the way. I just wanted to mention that because I feel like it's a little weird. Riding high in April. Shot down in May. You don't say hi to termites, 8. There's too much wood literally everywhere for you to do that and be safe. Now you're in the crystals? What does that mean? Let it get me down. I kind of want to dye my bed, but I don't know what I want to dye it. Been a pawn and a king. Pickaxe or rock. Okay, we need more wood, and we need to figure out what we want to do for our house. Because it's like a beachfront house, I kind of want to do birch. As much as I hate the lighter colored wood. Like, I don't really like acacia, I don't really like jungle. Really any of the pinker or any of the, like, brightly colored woods. I'm not really a fan of. Whee! I can't tell if that's a full-fledged cave, but if it is, I'm gonna be a little sad that I just didn't notice it. Up and get back in the race. I want to play this song that's getting big because of the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Didn't realize that show ended, by the way. Unless it, like, just ended, but I didn't know. Here it is. It's been big all over TikTok because of the show. People have been doing this dance to it that apparently is in the show. None of these sound right. I'm confused. I'm getting crumbs on me. I'm looking it up to see if I can find it. If I Google it. Pink shoelaces. 8, what are you on right now? Here it is. Oh, the Cordettes. I should have known because they did fucking Mr. Sandman. What are you playing? Well, thank you, 8. Very specific. I know it's Minecraft, but like, you playing like a mod pack? Or are you on a server or what? Ah, what's the mod? Alright, let's head back to the house and we can plant these closer. Did you hear that? He was in the brig. Dooley got himself thrown in the brig, bro. Crazy Craft? Ooh. I think I tried to play that when I was planning on doing like a mod pack night when I played RLCraft instead. And I think Crazycraft wouldn't work for me at the time. I know it has in the past though. Man, oh man. Okay. I think the actual house we're gonna make on the water. Because I can. Well, partially on the water. Two, three, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Man, oh man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I thought you said it was an alligator. Is it an alligator or a crocodile? Not in the same biome. Because if that was the case, then damn. Because I don't think crocs and alligators live in the same areas. No, I fell off. Fuck. Okay. Give me that shit back. I'm playing this like I plan on doing, like I'm building this as if I'm planning on doing full walls, but I think it's gonna be more like lots of windows. You know. I'm essentially making my shitty version of Tony Stark's Malibu house. You know, ocean right outside, on a cliffside, tons of glass windows. The differences are, this is not on a cliff. It's not gonna look like his Malibu mansion. But it will have lots of glass windows and be near the water. 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's pretty big. We're gonna use these bones. Because I don't want to run over there and I don't want to wait. That was almost not worth it. It kind of wasn't still, but... Is this playing on loop? It is. I apologize. I wasn't paying attention. Ooh. We love Måneskin. Dude, I don't know if anyone else was following Eurovision this year. Kinda bummed that, Alicia did not win. Kinda bummed. Or Alessandra, sorry. But like her song Queen of Kings should have won. But I'm also a little biased because I don't like crazy long nails. And if I'm remembering correctly, the person that did win, I think it was Laureen or something, um, has crazy long nails. Also, her performance wasn't great, in my opinion. Like, her physical performance was not great. If I'm remembering the right footage. Because I know there was footage of her doing a performance, and she was essentially pretending to be holding up this thing trying to crush her. And it just... I get it's not supposed to be that sort of performance, like, it's not supposed to be, like, acting level, but the acting was not there. It did not look like she was holding it up or keeping it from crushing her. It looked like she was very gently pressing her fingertips against it and just like slightly crouching. And like I liked her music, but personally I just liked Queen of Kings more. Speaking of, let's cue Queen of Kings. Oh, that was like a hiccup and a burp at once and it hurt. Ow. Iconic, you are just like them most. Don't act like you don't know. I have a song on my playlist called Out of My Mind by Little Image. I saw a Hulu ad for it the other day and I was shocked. I think I was watching the show 911. No, 911 Lone Star. Essentially the same exact show, just based in Texas. And um I don't know if anyone else who has Hulu has seen this, but lately Hulu's been like showcasing artists, like musical artists, um, and being like, oh, single out now or whatever, and like showing the music video or whatever for the song. And yeah, so I was watching the show and the ad comes up and it's for Out of My Mind by Little Image and I was like, what the fuck? I have this song. I will say though, as much as I wanted her to win, Alessandra's like her musical performance, not her like physical performance, her musical performance was subpar. I've seen her do better for the finals. I was a little sad, but I still really enjoyed it. People are very happy that finals are over. Do you hear that? Woo! Me too, dude. I finished my last final today. It was my intro to computing technology class. Not as cool as it sounds, by the way. You're literally just learning how to use like Word, PowerPoint, shit like that. Um, it taught me some things about each of the programs for sure, but it just wasn't like it wasn't what the name suggested. I think I'm gonna have these corners be like posts, you know? I also don't know what I'm gonna do for the floor. I should look up like a birch, um, like a birch color palette. Let me do that actually. I'll use Pinterest. I'm trying to refrain from using my what's from my browser on my laptop or my PC, I mean. But yeah, I'm trying to refrain from using the browser on my PC just because it like It gets so laggy when I go to open it. Just because the Wi-Fi is so bad. Hangnail. Okay. I like this one. I don't know how much I'll be able to use the azalea leaves from it, but I like it. Stay there, motherfucker. Okay, so the palette is stripped birch, white concrete, frog lights, which I won't be using, azalea leaves, and white stained glass. Oh my god. My nose is so itchy. Let's do this again. But with the right wood this time. Okay. We're gonna get rid of this once I get the white concrete, because the floor is gonna be birch. I have decided. I've spoken. But yeah, we just need to get the white concrete. Hot. My god, my nose. It's just the one side, too. It's so fucking itchy. Ah! Nope. She ain't with it, though. All because she got a rondo. Boss, if you don't know, she could never ever be a bro. Fuck it! Stop it! You absolute slut. Thank you. Just gave me my bottles. Empty bottles of rum, apparently. I love that that's the only thing that those are used for, according to this, according to pirate language. Okay, we're gonna have to go run and get some more wood, because I'm not waiting for these. Which is fine, there's quite a bit of birch over here. This gives you gray, right? Blue flower. That's the what, cornflower? No, cornflower is the blue one. Oh, I got my first cookbook today. Didn't mean to. But when I went to that senior supper, quote unquote, um, they had a table with a bunch of class of 2023 merch. And nothing crazy, by the way. I was a little sad that they didn't have any, like, sweatshirts or shirts or anything, like, you know, something nice that I can wear. But they had a bag. It's essentially the bag that you saw in the background a minute ago when I was on just chatting. But it's the bag, a cup, a cookbook created by past students. Essentially just like compiling all these different recipes from different students. It was from the Alumni Association. What else is in there? Oh, two little, excuse me, two little sticky notepads. I don't remember what else. Oh, two stickers. And some Swedish fish. She don't like where she came from. Nobody wants to stay together. Let's get rid of this motherfucker and put the pillar in. We only have like one log done too, or one log left. I'm so dumb. Okay. Hot. There we go. I knew I could reach it. Actually, I don't know why I threw those. I need it for my windows. My many, many windows. Okay. Alright, that is all of the pillars. Now we can focus on the floor. I'm gonna get rid of these. Because again, I'm doing the walls here. And they're gonna be out of white concrete. So there's no point in keeping this here. There we go. So terrified. I can't deny that you changed me. You make me go out of my mind. I'm just gonna backpedal a little bit. Beautiful. Out of my mind every time without you, baby. Wood. Meow, meow, meow. Okay. Let's head back here again, finish this line. Oh, I mentioned this last stream, but once I get back to the house, like once I'm back home for the summer, I am hoping to, how do I want to put it? To just like, I want to essentially like overhaul my brand, which you already knew because I mentioned it a moment ago, but then I also want to change the like, the camera angle if possible, because don't get me wrong, I like the like essentially head-on look that we have going on, but at the same time I've been watching a lot of Julian Solomina's vlogs, or not his vlogs, his VODs, and I really like the way he has his setup. Granted, his works really well for the fact that he is one of those desks that you can switch from a standing to a sitting, like one of the motorized desks. And so his camera angle works really well because it almost doesn't look like he's moved, no matter how he's set up. And it's like a camera angle sort of like this, where you're sort of getting like a side profile situation, but it's higher up. Just by a little bit, like a little bit higher and tilted down. I kind of want to try it if possible, but I don't know. Can I sleep or are you too close? Hot. Whoa! Ow! I didn't expect him to follow me in the water. Ooh! Get juked, bitch. Oh, shit. Alright, let's get more wood. Once we have the floor done, I'll go after concrete and start laying out the foundation for, like, the windows. Oh, there was a game that I got forever ago that I didn't play. That I think I wanted to show you guys at some point. That's something that we could do. I was, like, running through my head as to, like, potential new things to play, because, you know, I play Minecraft all the time. I play 7 Days sometimes, but, like, you guys don't really love that one. That one's more of a me game. I play Phasmophobia occasionally. I really want to get more people playing Phasmophobia with me, because I love that game. I don't think if there's anything else. I want to play Ark. But that's just not happening, because it's just so fucking beefy. I have my Xbox, though, at home, so if possible, I might situate that. I wouldn't be able to have, like, my webcam or anything on. Or, well, I'd probably be able to have my webcam, but I wouldn't be able to have, like, the entire setup that I usually do, because I don't have a capture card. But I could figure something out. Just because I really love Ark, and I know you guys will probably enjoy it, because it's kind of like 7 Days to Die. But I was watching Chise's Rust stream a while ago, like last week sometime, and the interfaces, and just, like, the play style for Rust is very similar to Ark. Like, for anyone who's played Rust, you know the point system to learn how to, I'm assuming it's like the point system for, like, how to craft shit. Like, you have to buy the crafting recipe. Same situation as Ark. You have to learn how to make tools and building blocks and saddles for the dinosaurs and shit. And if you've never heard of Ark, and you're like, dinosaurs. It's literally like a futuristic dinosaur game. You somehow are, like, you're in a futuristic setting, don't know where you're from, but you like wake up with this implant on your arm on this island filled with dinosaurs. And you can make, like, pretty futuristic shit. Not, like, crazy futuristic, but, like, you can make fucking an entire house with lights and tables and shit. And then there's the tech dinosaurs, which I don't know why they exist, but they're literally dinosaurs that are, like, metallic looking. They look so fucking sick. I've had several parasaurs in the game that have been tech parasaurs. I don't think I've ever had a I know there's, like, tech raptors, and I think there's, like, tech T-Rexes. I've never had either. There's also, like, alpha dinosaurs, which are way more aggressive and, like, way more dangerous, because they're essentially, like, mini bosses. I've fought several alpha raptors. I don't think I've fought it, but I saw an alpha T-Rex. I don't know if there's alphas for the, like, initially passive dinosaurs, like, you know, the more herbivore type dinosaurs. But I know at the very least there's the alpha raptor. They also had a period for Easter one year where they had, because there are dodos in the game, Fucking love the dodos. I will literally make like an army of dodos. It's so funny because then they just like walk super fucking slow because their default walk speed or their default like run speed is really really fucking slow. So you have to level it up for them to even be remotely fast. But it's just like an army of slow walking dodos with their wings flapping just like all together. It's so funny. And if you level up their damage enough, they can be or their like attack enough, they can get pretty crazy. I'm trying to think of what else. But yeah, they for the Easter thing they had, I think they were like Easter dodos or like Easter egg dodos or something. And every time you killed one, you got an Easter egg. And they would also like because the dodos and a lot of the like dinosaurs they were laid eggs. Um, so there would just be like Easter eggs everywhere, dodo eggs everywhere, like a solid mix of the two. It was so good. I think Markiplier's done like one video on Ark. I wish he'd done more. Cause it's such a good game. Like if he could get Wade and Bob in on it, it'd be so funny. I've been watching his Raft series lately because he just uploaded a couple videos. And I love Raft with him. I don't know how I would do playing it myself. Because it's a little bit of like a slow going game in general, but okay, we have the floor pretty much settled because there's just so many saplings over here that they're gonna grow. So now we gotta work on concrete. Which means I need white dye. And I need more sand and gravel. I don't want to destroy the area, so I'm just gonna like trim off some spots. Ooh, I didn't realize we have 4 bones. Hot. Okay. Oh wait, no, it's fuck. What is it? Isn't it something like this? Yeah. There we go. That's a solid amount to start with. I don't have dirt. I need dirt. Shakira, Shakira. Hot. See how this goes. It's so trippy. Okay. Ooh, this is working really well. Hey, Palace Sandman, how's it going? Okay, we're almost near the end. Ye block be broken. Ooh, okay. Beautiful. Hot. I'm hyped for this. This is gonna look good. Okay, what did we need more of? We need more gravel, right? Yeah. Okie dokie, gravel hunt. Whee! Whoa, calm down. The surface is right there, so I'm not worried. Yeah, see? Knock, knock, let the devil in. Whee! We needed. Did we need more dye? No, we had a little bit left, didn't we? Because we ran out of gravel first. Yeah. I don't know how much we're gonna be able to make with this, but let's find out. Sexy. Oh, it still works. Okay. I didn't know if it was gonna work because it wasn't a source block, but we're chill. Hot. Cool. This will at the very least finish off the bottom of the walls. I'm missing one. There it is. Got it. Okay. So that finishes off the, like, bottom of the walls. I think I'm only gonna have the actual walls extend up in a couple spaces, just because, like I said, lots of windows. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look. I'm probably only gonna go to 9 tonight, by the way, just because I have to be up early tomorrow for packing and moving. But yeah, I also have to, that's something too, I have to pack away the setup. That's like the main big thing I still have to pack up, honestly. I've packed up pretty much everything else. What's my disability? Yeah, I'm totally chill with talking about it. I get chronic migraines, which not themselves are a disability, I don't think. It's more of one of those case-by-case basis type of deals. But because my migraines are so debilitating, they are considered a disability. Because, you know, can't go to work when I have a migraine, or if I do go to work, I'm not functioning as I usually would, so I'm typically, like, really, really out of it from the pain. Because, you know, the pain's localized in your head, so it's kind of tough to focus. Yeah. And then, like, some of the symptoms I can get, like nausea and shit, I typically don't get them, like, half-assed, I get them really bad. So. Not as bad as I thought. I know you probably don't mean anything by that, but I wouldn't recommend saying not as bad as I thought when you're discussing disabilities. Just because no matter the severity, they're still considered disabilities for a reason. Like I said, I'm sure you didn't mean anything by it, but, you know, just a general rule of thumb. I don't know how high I want to make this. I kind of want to make it big and airy in here, you know? 1, 2, 5. We'll start with 5. I feel like I want it higher, but I don't know. I feel like 7 is a lot. What about 6? I don't know about 6 though either. I need food. My little Minecraft guy is starving. Alright, let's go kick some fish ass. Because that's the closest food to us. I need to get a farm going. I can't sprint either, so that's a little bit of a whoopsie-daisy on my part. Oh, there's the sheep. I could go kill those sheep. I don't need the sheep anyway. I'm gonna kill the sheep. Get myself some mutton. I'm gonna stay away from the white sheep. Because white supremacy at its finest, even in Minecraft. I'm kidding, I'm staying away from the white sheep just because I want to be able to dye it. And not be perturbed by any previous dyes. I think the last time I had any sort of beach house was Bee's Knees, maybe? My old SMP. I don't remember. It's been a while, though. Yeah, I think I like that more. I'll have to go around and push these up one. Yeah, I like that height. For sure. Okay, we need gravel. I know I didn't deplete this pocket down here, right? Kraken swims. Alright, I need another little area. Ooh. Let's head back. Are they watching a movie? That sounded low-key like Marvel music. Hold on. I need to check this out and see what the fuck's going on. One of my roommates is watching Ender's Game. We're not listening to Seven Nation Army remix. Ooh. Okay, let's switch all of this to concrete and then we'll place it and head off for the night. Whee! I'm gonna fill this up because I know this isn't gonna be window. Just because it's a weird spot to have them, you know? This will probably be all window. This won't be, because it's the front of the house. I'll probably have, like, normal windows there or something. Or maybe, like, windows around the door. I don't know. I think these are gonna come down, and then it'll be windows. I might split it with, like, a couple lines down it, but... Alright. I know I just came back. But that's gonna be it for stream. Just because, like I said, I don't want to go too late. And it's almost 9. I have to be up at, like, 7. Because I have to eat, pack up whatever I don't have finished tomorrow morning, which will be, like, my bedding and last minute stuff. Fun times. Speaking of rust, Chise's playing Rust. Alright, we're gonna raid Chise, aka Scarlet Cloud. Hope you guys enjoyed stream. If you did and you haven't already, feel free to follow. If you really enjoyed, feel free to subscribe. As you've seen in chat repeatedly at this point, we also have merch. So if you have the cash and you want to rep some cool merch, go ahead. If I'm remembering right, we have bucket hats, we have sweaters, like sweatshirt situations. I think we have hoodies, shirts. We might have stickers. I'm pretty sure we have stickers too. So yeah, go ahead and check those out if you want to. Feel free to grab one if you want. And oh, they're doing like a purge. Okay. I just saw the title of her stream. But yeah, I'm going to leave you guys with Chise. I'll be back and probably streaming either I just realized what's playing. We're not listening to Misty Mountains right now. But yeah, I'll be back streaming either Thursday or this weekend. Depending on how much energy I have after packing and everything and once I have my stuff set up. But